Welcome to Zimmerman Podcast, episode 125. Today is week 13 in our new series, The Path Back to You. If you're new to this series, we are taking 1 year to discover how to become who we are meant to be. Each month we dive into a new topic, and this month's topic is all about removing shame and shedding limiting beliefs. Today we're talking about silencing the voice of shame that is running your life. Let's get started and take this next step on the path back to you. All right, you ready? Let's do it. I'm Jessica Zimmerman, and this is Zimmerman Podcast. I'm a serial entrepreneur, mom to 3, and professional oversharer who has spent a decade building my business and helping others do the same. From wedding floral design to business education, features in Martha Stewart Weddings and Forbes magazine, and even writing and publishing my best-selling memoir, Sleeping with a Stranger, my business has kept growing, evolving, and changing year after year, just like me. Because the best thing about building a strong business is the freedom it gives me to live a full life. And that's what Zimmerman Podcast is all about, sharing real, transparent, in-the-moment reflections about how to live a life, build a business, and lead a family through the good, the hard, and the messy. That's what we're doing each week, right here on Zimmerman Podcast. Welcome to the show. When I turned 39, I bought my first crop top. It was an act of beautiful rebellion, not against age. Nope. I've never had a problem with growing older, and no part of me wanted to dress like a teen in some sort of midlife crisis. That wasn't it. I was rebelling against shame, against all the messages that I had heard growing up that sunk in deep and made me feel like revealing any part of myself, both physically and emotionally, was something to be ashamed of. Like most women throughout history, but even specifically those growing up like I did in the American South's Bible Belt in the last half a century, showing any amount of skin was met with disapproving glares, gossipy whispers, and choruses of, "Bless her heart." Can you relate? We'll talk more about this in a later chapter, but it's important to say it now too. How I dress and what I share of my life and my body only needs to stand up to the standards that I set for myself. It only matters what I am comfortable with, and that I'm making choices that reflect my soul instead of others' insecurities. It is not my responsibility, nor is it yours, to control what the people around you say, do, or think in response to your choices. And anytime you hear the word should thrown around, that's a pretty sure sign that someone is trying to play the shame game. And here's the thing about the word should. Should is simply an indication of obligation. You should really cover up. Do you really think you should be wearing that? You should mind your manners. You should be ashamed of yourself. Rejecting shame is an act of beautiful rebellion because it separates you from your ego. We talked all about ego in last month's chapter of The Path Back to You. But when you live out of ego, you're way more concerned with what others think of you than what your soul really desires. Our impulse to rebel, it comes from a hunger to know ourselves, our truest soul selves, the self that shame tried to hide from us, the self that we shoved down and hid to please other people around us, the self that we trained ourselves not to trust, the self we hid. It's an act of examining all the things that we have ever been told and discovering firsthand for ourselves if those beliefs actually ring true to us. True rebellion is where we look society directly in the face and say, I understand who you want me to be, but I'm going to show you who I actually am. Because That's love. And a rebel speaks only from a place of love. True rebellion isn't harmful, it's beautiful. It's often the only way we make it back home, back to ourselves. There's something about bearing it all, about revealing ourselves both physically and emotionally that we've been taught should be shameful. And I'm not a nudist by any stretch of the imagination, but this simple act of wearing a damn crop top has been a symbol for me of letting my soul self out into the light. Every time I put on a crop top, I say a little FU to the voices of shame inside my head who try to tell me not only that what I do is wrong, but that I am bad. Guilt can be a helpful tool that tells us when we're living out of soul alignment, but shame is never helpful and it is only destructive. You will have many voices in your life, maybe even your own, that tell you, shame on you. Well, I am here to say, shame off, my friend. Shame off. Shame is one of the main things that can rob you from being who it is that you are meant to be and living the life that you are meant to live. Standing up to shame isn't disrespectful. It's choosing to honor your own inherent value. Let's look at this through the lens of hustle culture. As a mom of three with social lives more active than my own, most of my conversations with other parents look like this. Hi, how y'all doing? Good? Yeah, we're good. Busy. We wear busy like a badge of honor and ignore the real soul level exhaustion. That's the price of keeping up our overfull lives. And no matter how hard we try, there's still a voice telling us that we're not doing enough. A lot of us were raised to believe rest equals lazy. Your entire body is begging you for a nap. You're yawning. You're tired. Your brain isn't able to make decisions well. You're irritable. But it's only 3 p.m. Your body says, please, please let me rest. Your brain says, absolutely not. You shouldn't nap. You should be productive. You've got too much to do. Better get busy staying busy. When you feel like you're losing your mind, I'm here to help you restore your soul. A few years ago, I woke up and felt like everything in my life was a lie. I didn't recognize myself or any of the people around me. For the first time in my life, I questioned everything I had ever been taught or told. I didn't know what was true anymore, and I felt like everything I knew was slipping away from me. I went through a complete dark night of the soul until I was forced, by something much more powerful than me and my fears, to stop running from myself and start facing the truth. That the pain in my life wasn't coming from the world around me, but from the pain inside me. I remember thinking, what if the cause of your pain and the cure for your pain is the same? You. That's what my program, The Path Back to You, is all about. Not starting over, but starting again on a path that will return you to yourself, a path that will heal and refine you, a path that will break you and make you whole. When searching for answers to what felt like an all at once, completely sudden, never ending list of questions with no answers, all I found was the advice just sit with yourself and heal. All the answers are inside of you. And I remember thinking, gee, thanks. That's helpful. I know I need to heal, and I'm willing and ready to do the work to do that, but how? Where do I begin? Well, it took some time, but after years of therapy, researching on my own, trial and error, mess ups and setbacks, I found my way back home, back to myself. In The Path Back to You, I share with you my own personal story of struggle and trauma as a sacred offering. My hope is that through my story, you can better see yourself. I share with you my darkest moments and the steps I took to find my light, the light I had dimmed for most of my life. Throughout all the heartache I've endured, I've finally found peace, and I want to share my roadmap with you. If any of this resonates with you, trust that this episode found you for a reason. Trust the divine intervention. Those brave enough to have embarked on a healing journey know how incredibly lonely and painful it is. I remember feeling completely isolated, like I didn't even belong in this world anymore. It was scary as hell. But I want you to know you are not alone. While I fully believe healing is a solo journey, I think it's totally okay to have a roadmap and a pathfinder who has gone before you to guide you as you return home to you. Join me on the path back to you. Click the link in the show notes or go to jessicazimmerman.com to learn more. And just for you, podcast listeners can get 15% off with code PATH15. That's PATH15. Part of removing shame and shedding limiting beliefs is recognizing what we learned in the last chapter, the soul versus the ego. The soul says rest. The ego says work. Many women today believe that they should work. Raising children isn't considered work. Women are brought up in a society that says they aren't enough unless they work as if they have no children. Only by living a life guided by soul instead of shame can you become who you were made to be, instead of who the world wants you to be. You'll never be fulfilled living out someone else's misguided expectations of you. They'll never be satisfied no matter how hard you try to fit yourself into their box. You were made for more, and you can never become your truest self if you're letting shame run the show. So you ready to rebel? Take a stand? Come home? Live your truth? It's time. If you want to hear more of my own shame stories and go deeper into how shame affects how we embody our truest selves, I invite you to join my course, The Path Back to You, which goes deeper into each weekly topic, shares practical tools in a weekly workbook, and gets more into the personal stories that I don't share on so public a platform. You can join right now by clicking the link in the show notes and description. And make sure to come back next week when we talk about how to shed those limiting beliefs. Thank you so much for joining me today as we journey together on this path back to you. I hope what you heard today resonated with you and that you can take it with you into your week. If you're looking for more resources for the journey, go to jessicazimmerman.com. While you're there, go check out the Path Back to You course page. I'll see you right back here next week for our next leg of the journey.